Golic and Smetty here.
Have you ever thought about what it would be like to start a podcast with your dad?
Welcome to yet another edition of Golic and Smetty. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jess Matana. And, you know, for the football season really not beginning yet, Jess, there is still a ton of news. And I really think the biggest news we're going to start with, outside of where I'm normally going to start with you, is outside the world of football with one of what has to go down as one of the greatest athletes that we have seen. We've been fortunate enough to see this person do their thing, and we'll get to that person in a minute. But you know where I got to start. I mean, it has been now 2 podcasts in a row where you have basically shirked your responsibilities of baking anything, which has really disheartened me, and I'm sure very much displeased your boyfriend and the Levitard group. So please fill me in on where we're at with that.
So I baked something really good this weekend, Mike.
Oh, God.
And let me tell you, it is a sad story.
Oh.
Yeah. So I baked these, they were pistachio apricot bars. It's apricot season, Mike. I don't know if you know.
No, I did not know.
Stone fruit, very in right now. So it was like a crust layer with like sugar and, you know, flour and butter.
Sure.
And then a layer of like this pistachio cream. And then a layer of apricots, and you bake it, and the apricots get really warm. I know you're not like a warm fruit guy.
No,
but
not. But willing
the
to try.
apricots, they're a little sweet, they're a little tart. So I made these bars on Friday. My boyfriend had a couple, I had a couple, gave a couple to my friend. And then on Saturday, I got invited to go on good friend Izzy Gutierrez's boat.
Saw the pictures of that on your Instagram. Looked very fun.
It was a blast. It was a blast.
Oh, that was Izzy's boat?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So it was a big boat day. Me and Chris Cody, you know, from the Levitard show, went on the boat. Very fun. My boyfriend and I packed up the pistachio apricot bars to bring with us as a little treat.
Right.
Turns out, not a great snack for a boat. About 2 or 3 hours into the boat ride,
oh, no.
I opened my bag, and it was just a pile of mush. Like a pile of, like, eggy, pistachio-y, buttery mush with like apricots. I think it melted, and I think it got like jostled around on the boat because, you know, we were going pretty fast on the boat. Right. It was also like 100 degrees out. It's hot everywhere right now.
Yeah.
So we had to throw the rest of them away, and it was so sad.
Oh no! Did you like throw them overboard?
No, we threw them away when we got home, but I couldn't even do it. I told my boyfriend, I'm like, you have to throw these away. Like, I'm too sad about it. Like, I only got to have like one of them, and it was devastating. So anyways,
that's a tough call.
Really tragic end for my baked good this weekend.
I would have tried it. You're right. I'm not a fruit person. I'm not an apricot person. Apricots, however you say it. But I would have tried it because I so enjoy your baking. Let me ask you this, and feel free to boast. Don't hold back. Could you go on a baking show contest?
Ooh, it depends. I mean, I'm not like making these recipes up off the top of my head.
No,
you know
no.
What I mean?
But I mean, listen. I mean, a lot of these people aren't. They may have little tricks of the trade.
True.
I get it.
Well,
but pick your best one, whatever you think you make best. I don't know what that is. Could you be in a baking show contest with it?
I think my baked stuff tastes pretty good, but I think if I'm under all the stress and the pressure and I'm being timed, and I have to remember something off the top of my head, I don't know if I'm going to be able to perform well under pressure. I'm not 100% confident in myself. I'm confident in, you know, if we had a bake-off where I like brought in something that I baked the night before.
Oh, okay,
and everyone taste tested a bunch of food. I'm confident I would do well. I'm not sure how I would do on a TV show.
Okay, all right. That would be asking a lot. I mean, because I love watching those competitions.
Me too.
Not for pros, but people who aren't used to doing it, you know, in front, you know, that quick. Like you said, you have 1 hour or whatever, and you F something up, and you got to redo it. Yeah, that would be a lot of pressure.
The worst.
So now that I'm thinking of it, let me ask you this, and then we're going to go to this person. what if you had to pick one thing that you bake best, what would it be? Or do you have one?
I don't know if I have one. I think I do a lot of things well, but I don't do anything like above and beyond. That's not true. A few things. Like, I don't know, but I'm gonna have to test like some cookies out with you this fall. Hopefully we'll tailgate together a few times.
You did that,
and then you can tell
excellent.
me.
So are you saying you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't have like a specialty. Like I'll do cookies, I'll do muffins, I'll do cakes, I'll do loaves, pies. God. I love pies.
Still, what sticks in my mind is the the key lime loaf, because I've had key lime pie, which I love, but key lime loaf, when you made that, I was like, wow, okay, that was special. And in my segue voice, speaking of special,
well done.
This. And the reason when I was trying to set this up, I was not giving a gender away, because a lot of times when we're talking about, pardon my throat, I've been on a flight and maybe that airplane air, who knows. But a lot of times when you start talking about the greatest athletes of all time, it's unfortunate and it's ridiculously a shame that women aren't included. But this one is. Serena Williams has basically announced and said after the U.S. Open that she is not retiring from tennis, but evolving away from tennis, I believe was her line. But she's retiring for this conversation. And I tell you what, Jess, there is no debating on, is she a top 10 athlete of all time? Could be top 5 athlete of all time. It's where everybody would put her. Certainly everybody's allowed their own opinion, but what an incredible career from where her and her sister Venus began with the King Richard story that everybody could see, where Will Smith won the Oscar for it, and just what the beginnings were. And she went into detail. I think it was Vogue magazine, where she went into real detail about the beginning of her career and obviously going to the end of it. I thought the article was fascinating because a lot of it was just her kind of telling the story. But I mean, you would have to search very, very hard to find many careers that are greater than this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think just the way that she announced her retirement speaks to how she's become like so much bigger than just a tennis player. Like having this Vogue article where there's all these like amazing portraits of her, like she's become a fashion icon. She's become like so much more than just someone who plays tennis really well, and like she's a cultural icon now. So while she's retiring from tennis, I think she's saying that like she's not going to disappear. She's just not going to be the version of herself that plays tennis anymore. And I think Serena Williams is like you said, like she is so dominant. It's like impossible to make any list of the best athletes over the last decade plus and not include her, because she has kicked everyone's ass over and over again. Like she had no rivals because she was so good. And she's won 23 majors, and she went pro, Mike, the year after I was born. So I cannot remember a time in which there was no Serena or Venus Williams playing. I think Venus went pro in the year before, so the year I was born. So this new world of tennis without Serena Williams is going to feel so bizarre. But yeah, she's just the best. I don't know what else you can say about it.
It to kind of just to give credence to, forgetting just what she's done in the sport. But I mean, like golf, tennis had been considered the upper class, country club sport. And they're from Compton, they don't have a lot of money yet. Richard Williams finds a way to get his daughters to work and go through the process they're going through to become successful. There weren't a lot of African Americans that were successful, or coming from, low financial means and not country club era, that were successful. And Serena and Venus just absolutely destroyed that ceiling. They just didn't break through it. They destroyed that ceiling. And I put Serena's, when she was at the top of her game, when Tiger was at the top of his game, it just went for like a decade of dominance. When Mike Tyson was at the top of his game, when he was literally the most feared man on the planet, that he wasn't just going to knock you out, that he was going to hurt you in the ring, that you had to watch Serena was like that because she was so good. She was so powerful. She could move so well. I'm talking about in the peak, which was a long time for her in her peak. Just watching an athlete like that dominate. I mean, because listen, we talk about Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, if not the greatest. But there's, we talk more about, was Jerry Rice the furthest away from all the other wide receivers? How far was Tiger Woods away from the number two? How far in his prime was like Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali away from, though Muhammad Ali had some serious competition at times. But when they were at their dominant of who was even close to them, right? I mean, who could even step in their ring consistently and compete with them? I mean, for a while it was just Serena. And again, you mentioned the 23 Grand Slams. Again, Margaret Court has a record of 24. This was all before the Open era, before 1968. And I love how Serena just talked about passing all the greats, including Chris Evert, Martina, and passing them on that list. And she said certainly the great ending would have been winning the last Grand Slam and tying Margaret Court, and then winning the U.S. Open and having one more than Margaret Court and walking away from the game, But she said, it wasn't meant to be. It's a great story, but that story is not going to happen. She has a company and venture capitalist that she's been very involved in and wanting to have more kids. She says, I'm not playing tennis pregnant again. She won her last major when I think she was 2 months pregnant with her daughter, Olympia.
2017 Australia Open, yeah.
I mean, so that to me, not that she's going to go down as one of the greatest, but in her dominating space, whatever that space is, that she is right up there with the greats of all time of sheer dominance at that point in their sport.
Yeah, and it's a solo sport too. I think that's what one of the biggest differences between, you compare her to any athlete that's in a team or plays in a team sport. Like,
you could put her with Tiger, because Tiger was that was an individual sport too.
Golf is similar in that, like, it's certainly physical, but it's very mental. You have to be able to stay in the game mentally and compete even when you're losing and you're all alone on the court and you don't have a teammate there to, bail you out, or a coach to call a play that you might not have to do much for. Like, you can just hand off the ball a few times. Not saying Tom Brady's done that. Of course, I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, Mike.
Sure.
But yeah, Serena's kind of done it all by herself, and she's just incredible for it.
Well, listen, tennis is by yourself, golf is by yourself. Probably the most one by yourself sport other than team-wise is basketball, because you're playing offense, you're playing defense. You go to the, Michael Jordan, considered the greatest of all time, and what they do at both ends of the court. Football, Tom's going to go down as the greatest, but again, it's a team sport, and it's 1/3 of offense, defense, special teams. So, you have to take that into consideration as well. So, we'll see. It sounds like she's going that way, and we've seen her play. It's kind of one of those. In all honesty, before Tiger won the Masters a couple of years ago, I didn't think he was. I was still doing a show then, and I had said I don't think he's winning another major. I think he's stuck where he is, a few away from Jack Nicklaus, and then he goes and wins the Masters. So I think a lot of us were kind of hoping that was Serena. Could she eke another one out? Could she have that week, or that 2 weeks, at a Grand Slam, and put it together and eke out one more and at least tie Margaret Court. She was only one away, where Tiger was 3 away. So we all thought she was going to get there. Surely, from 2017, the last time she won, she would get 2 more. But it just came to watching, and then the more it went, because it is different than golf. Listen, golf can still be physical on your body. We see the operations Tiger's had. But I mean, my God, the physicalness of tennis and the movement,
is exhausting.
What you have to do, and just watching her year after year trying to do it, and just kind of going, God, put it together this one time, and it's so difficult to do when you get older like that.
Yeah, and she's done it 23 times, and it sounds like she's probably going to play in the U.S. Open, or at least like prepare for it and see how she feels, because she's been dealing with some injuries. But yeah, Mike, even watching tennis is exhausting. Yeah. I don't know about you, but it's one of those sports that I put on, and it's quiet, because it's kind of quiet like baseball, and you feel like, maybe I'll be able to kind of take a nap, but then you're just sucked into it.
Yeah.
Watching tennis players run back and forth. And I've never really been that big of a tennis fan. The numbers were too confusing for me. I'm too stupid to understand how the scoring works. But you can tell when you're watching a really great tennis player. And you can tell when someone is doing something that looks like it should be impossible. And that's certainly what it felt like watching her win all those Grand Slams. So again, gonna be weird with no Williams sisters in tennis. And it's anyone's guess who's going to like be the next great tennis star. There's certainly a lot of talented young people in the sport that weren't even born yet when Serena Williams became a professional. But it's hard to have the longevity that she's had playing.
Well, I mean, that's what everybody's looking for, right? Who's going to be the next one? And we've had different number ones for the last few years. We knew it wasn't going to be Serena. We were just hoping she would get that Grand Slam. So who's going to be that? It's just like in golf after Tiger. Who's going to be the next Tiger? Who's going to win that consistently? And that's the question we all ask sitting on our asses watching, people play golf or play tennis. And the reality is there may not be somebody who wins on that consistent of a level. We don't know what we're going to see. We still have those 3-4 dominant guys on the men's side. So we're waiting too for that next generation of men to kind of come through as well. But Serena Williams, in my estimation, belongs on any all-time greatest athlete list, forgetting gender, throw it out, men, women, doesn't matter, of where she belongs. So if the U.S. Open is the end for her and she walks away, we should all stand and clap, whether we're at the match or in our living room and say, well done, well done.
Well, Mike, you mentioned football earlier in the episode, and we did, in fact, have a football game since the last time you and I spoke. Did you watch any of the Hall of Fame game?
Oh, I did. And I want to get into that game. My rookie year, my team played in it. I didn't. I was with the Houston Oilers. I broke my ankle.
What's that?
I think.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, my God, Jess. Oh, my God. Sometimes.
I'm kidding.
Now for you kids out there, they're the Tennessee Titans. But they were the Houston Oilers. But I broke my ankle in camp like the first week. So I went there, but I didn't play in it. But it was also Hall of Fame induction week. And congratulations to Tony Baselli, Cliff Branch, Leroy Butler, Sam Mills, Bryant Young, Richard Seymour, Dick Vermeil, and Art McNally for all going in. And to me, Jess, sometimes those speeches go way long. They tell the guys, I think they want them 20 minutes or less. Sometimes, you're going to stop a guy. It's not like at the Oscars where they play the music. You get them off. They just keep going. My favorite thing about them is we all know what they did. We all know the All-Pros, the Pro Bowls, the Super Bowl rings, the accomplishments. But for me, I love hearing about the road. When they bring up their Little League coach, their high school coach, their uncle, their mom, whatever was part of their journey. To me, that's the Hall of Fame. What made them or what helped make them the great players that they were. So that's why I sit through all those speeches and love hearing the speeches, because that's what they do a lot, is they tell you not what I did, but this was my road at how I did it.
Were there any players in this year's group or anyone that you played with or that you know personally and you were excited to kind of hear from them or see them get inducted?
I know Dick Vermeil decently well. I know Tony Baselli very well. Tony Baselli came into the league a year after I retired, thank God. Like Tony Baselli and Larry Allen from the Cowboys came in right after I left, and like I said, thank God. I remember I was talking to Tony Baselli because I did I was the first preseason TV analyst for Jacksonville when they started in 1995. I had just retired, and I was offered that job, and I took it. So this was when Baselli was the first pick of that franchise. And I remember I was at camp, and my wife saw me somewhere, and we met Tony. We were talking to Tony, and I remember walking away from that, she's going, "Oh my God!" And listen, I had just retired, so I was still like 300 pounds. I was still kind of playing big, She said, when you were talking to him, you disappeared behind him. This dude was 6'7", 325 and was just a monster. So I knew him well. Bryant Young was a Notre Dame guy, so I knew him. I probably knew Baselli the best. And then unfortunately you get just the horrific stories. I mean, when Bryant Young was talking about one of his kids, Colby, who passed away when he was 15 years old, diagnosed with cancer a few years before that. And I mean, my God, you just sit there and you just cry with them. The speeches to me are unreal because you find out even more about the person. We sit there and we watch a person on the field, but we don't really know a person a lot of times. Today you can know them a little more because of social media. But man, these speeches, they really kind of open up. As far as the game, listen, I get people not wanting to watch the game, but Jess, I came as a 10th rounder. This was back when there were 12 rounds in the draft. And if you were a 10th rounder, a lot of times you weren't making the team. Mike was a free agent. There were 7 rounds when Mike came out. He was a free agent. Free agents struggle to make rosters. So I'm a lot of times about that third and fourth quarter when those guys get their reps in the game to see how they do. Because I remember when I was in the media and I would talk to young players, especially maybe not drafted guys or late drafted guys, they were like, is there a secret sauce? I said, obviously, first, there's no secret sauce. But I said, you got to make a play in camp that makes the coaches run back the film, run back the play. That's what you got to do. You don't get as many reps. So when you get your reps, you got to make them count. And you got to make the coach run the tape back when you're in practice. And that'll get you more reps, which could lead to more reps. So I enjoy watching it. I don't know the names of a lot of the guys, but I can understand. I don't imagine you do, and I would imagine a lot. Think about the people that gamble on those games, Jess, how sick they got to be.
I watched the entire game.
You did?
I watched the entire game, yes.
Good for you.
I don't know why. I mean, I didn't, enjoy it. I couldn't tell you what happened. I think the Raiders won.
Yeah.
By a lot. But yeah, it was football and it was on, so I watched the entire thing. My boyfriend really wanted to watch it too, even though I don't think he enjoyed any of it. But there we were Thursday night watching the Hall of Fame game. So football is back.
I mean, we all, right after the Super Bowl, we're all sad because football went away, and then we're counting the days till it comes back. And this is the first kind of official thing. And then you add in the rain delay in the beginning of it because of the weather. I should say weather delay. Rain wouldn't delay it. So while the games get going now, preseason games, do you watch those too? Like Pittsburgh's your team. Will you watch the entire game?
Well, I'll definitely watch this year because there's apparently a 3-way quarterback competition. It sounds like Mason Rudolph might be back in the mix.
Do you believe that? Do you believe?
I don't know. I don't know what I believe. I haven't obviously been to camp. I'm just kind of some of the reports are trickling through, but I don't know, Mike. To be honest with you, I haven't put on my football pants yet. I'm still wearing, right now I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I'm still on summer vacation. And until the Steelers play their first preseason game, or until, next week we're going to do a big Notre Dame football preview.
Right.
Until I feel like it's really here, that's when I'm going to really start digging in and figuring out what the hell to expect this season. Because Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback for 18 seasons. There was never really a question of him losing his spot to anybody. And this is the first time in my lifetime that there's been any sort of Steelers quarterback controversy. Now, there's been Notre Dame quarterback controversy almost every single year I've ever been a Notre Dame fan, except for when Ian Book was there.
Was running the show, yeah.
Well, even when Ian Book was there, because Ian Book and Brandon Wimbush,
Brian Kelly had a way to never make the number one quarterback feel very comfortable in this job.
Exactly. So I'm used to it, but no, I don't feel like it's really here. And I know when this show is out, the first episode of Hard Knocks, I believe, will have already aired.
Right.
And that's usually when I feel when you hear the sprinklers going off in the opening scene, that's when I'm like, all right, I think it's time. But so far I just have not. It just still feels like summer. It's 1,000 degrees outside. Yeah. And I'm making, apricot bars. It still feels like summer. Yeah.
For me, right when camp starts is when I'm ready to go. Now, again, I'm calling NFL games for Westwood One, so I kind of have to be going already on knowledge, of what's going on and such. But every year that goes by, and listen, I've been out of the game for a long time, and it has been hot everywhere. There'll be times, Jess, like sometime in July or something, I'll go outside and I'll be like, oh my God, it's hot. And then I'll think, I used to put pads on in this. I used to put pads and a helmet on and hit people for 2 hours twice a day in this shit. And it's amazing how, as I get older, I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that? But when you're young and dumb, you just go do it because that's all you've ever done, so they're all used to it. But I've been into it since July. I've been into it since the camps get going. I love all the little things about camps.
You're a real student of the game, Mike.
Well, I mean, probably playing had a lot to do with that.
I'm a student of the tailgate.
Yeah. Well,
I want to watch the games. I want to eat some dips.
It is something I never got to experience, and I hope you and I can experience at a Notre Dame game. Is I've never, obviously, when I played, never got the tailgate. So I was always, never good at that. So that's something I can always get better at. But yeah, we are full in preseason. And obviously for the Hall of Fame game, you heard Trevor Lawrence and Derek Carr aren't starting, which is fine. They shouldn't. So, but it still blows my mind that people gamble on these games. How you can figure out who you're going to pick when you have no clue who's going to be on the field. And I'm going to tell you,
that's the fun part.
I guess maybe, hey, listen, if you got the money, as long as, you're doing it responsibly, and not, gambling your rent money, hey, more power to you. But here's the one thing that I can guarantee you, Jess, that everybody is concerned about in every practice, 2-a-day practice, and every preseason game. It's at the end of the play or the end of the drill, everybody gets up. That is, without a doubt, already you look at for the Eagles, Jason Kelsey, the center, gets basically talked back in for another year, which will probably be his last year. He's going to get his elbow cleaned out. This guy already is starting the year where he's already, he's an undersized guy anyway who plays on grit and toughness and probably held together by chicken wire and duct tape. And that's going to continue for this year. You got these early injuries. Mekhi Becton, my God, the all-everything left tackle for the Jets, and they drafted him. Now he's over at right tackle. Last year, preseason, dislocates a kneecap, out the entire year. This year, chip in the same kneecap, out for the year, it looks like again. So 2 years in a row to miss entire seasons. That's the fear of training camp and especially of preseason games. And that's what I think you do as a fan. You hold your breath and pray that your guy in your jersey gets up after every play and you don't have to deal, because that's the one thing we can never predict. We can't predict who's going to get hurt.
Yeah, and Mike, I know it's August because this week on the Le Batard show we talked about Aaron Rodgers for like several hours, and Aaron Rodgers recently went on a podcast, said that he took ayahuasca on a trip in South America, and he's on this path to like self-discovery, I suppose, and so that's been a hot topic of debate. The NFL, I think, came out and said that it wasn't a violation of their drug policy and et cetera, et cetera. He's been doing a lot of media interviews. I don't care about Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's that interesting. I think we've run out of things to talk about.
I think Aaron Rodgers at times likes to every now and then go, I haven't been in the news enough, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to date this person, or I'm going to get this tattoo, or I'm going to,
the tattoo.
However you ingest. And here's the spelling of it. Ayahuasca. Would you say
ayahuasca? I know that's a tough one for you.
So, without question. So
I tried to spell it for you earlier and it didn't work out very well.
You did. And luckily I typed in a couple letters and it came up, probably because Aaron Rodgers talked about it.
Well, he's been trending for like a week because of all of this, and it's been like this kind of mini controversy, and I'm not sure why.
Well,
I know why. It's because it's August, but like,
also, I'm sure the first thing everybody did is looked into is, was it illegal? Is it on the ban list?
Right.
When you're walking into training camp, like Nicolas Cage from Con Air, a movie I love, by the way.
Never seen.
Oh my God, of course you haven't. Okay. Ayahuasca, here we go. For those that may not know, if you didn't look it up, it's a South American psychoactive brew used both socially and as ceremonial spiritual medicine among the indigenous people of the Amazon basin. It is growing in usage in Western society, including multiple ayahuasca churches. It is a psychedelic and some word I can't pronounce, mixed drink brew, commonly made out of another word I can't pronounce, vine and shrub, or a substitute, and possibly other ingredients. So yeah, I'm sure the first thing people do is say, is anything on the ban list? Is Aaron Rodgers not going to be able to play? Right? I mean, that's what everybody wants to find out. If you hate Green Bay, you're digging through every ingredient of this, praying to God something shows up on the ban list.
Bears fans.
Yeah, so he doesn't play. By the way, I'm calling that game, the Bears at Green Bay, week 2 of the season. I'll be in Green Bay.
Wow.
First week I'm doing Tampa Bay at Dallas.
Well, I was going to say, it'll be great for you to call another Packers win against the Bears.
I know. I did the last year, their last home game or last regular season game. So, yeah, I really think that's it with Aaron. I mean,
just wants attention.
I don't think there's any doubt the dude loves the spotlight. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So he's in it again for ayahuasca. We think that's how we say it? Ayahuasca?
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Or is that how you're just saying? You're just saying it with such like assuredness that that's the right way to say it. So it says it's prepared in a tea that when consumed causes an altered state of consciousness or high, including visual hallucinations and altered perceptions of reality. Isn't that like peyote? I mean,
you're giving me like strong dad vibes right now, Mike, reading like the Wikipedia page for a drug. I love it.
And you forget I'm putting on my reader glasses when I'm doing it. I'm hitting every dad move there is.
While we're on the football topic, I know we're going to be covering some Notre Dame specific things next weekend, so Notre Dame fans should look out for that. But in the meantime, there has been Big Ten news.
Yes.
Apparently the Big Ten is working on finalizing a deal with NBC and CBS for Big Ten rights starting in 2024, I believe. It's a big deal. And I think the most surprising part about it is that ESPN's not a part of it.
Right.
The thing that I think might be interesting for us to talk about, Mike, is what this might mean for Notre Dame fans if the Big Ten is now going to be on NBC, which has historically been the exclusive home of Notre Dame football.
So I think the biggest thing for Notre Dame is will NBC try and, will there be an individual move for them, right? We've already talked about the one report out there that Notre Dame was looking at wanted $75 million a year. They're currently making anywhere from 15 to 20 mil from NBC. And we've talked about what makes Notre Dame stay independent. And I think we both agree, a clear path to the playoffs. And we know it's going to be expanded to 12 or 16 teams. And Notre Dame will, as an independent, would have absolutely a clear path to the playoffs without question. And then it's how much money can Notre Dame make, because I don't care if it's our school, anybody else's school, this revolves around money. Why do we think USC and UCLA are popping to the Big Ten? A lot of it is about money. So what's the money to be made? What are all the different ways Notre Dame can be part of something or still alone in something? Because that's what everybody says. It comes out, as we mentioned, a $350 million deal for CBS, and the Big Ten. The question, where does that leave Notre Dame? We know where Fox is probably going to be in the $800 to $1 billion a year. Where does that leave Notre Dame? What are they going to do? So I think Jack Swarbrick, the AD, still sits back as the landscape continues to unfold and see, in all honesty, unless you disagree, Jess, you tell me what kind of comes to them. Mm-hmm. I would say would you think their phone would ring before they make a call to someone?
I think so. And I think this might be a good sign for Notre Dame fans that want to be independent, because this is an indication that NBC wants to keep having a college football presence. Like recently, NBC gave up all of their hockey rights to ESPN and shut down the NBC Sports Channel. Right. And I think there maybe was like a thought that they were kind of thinking of taking some of their sports properties like away or giving up some and doubling down on others. So I think this is a good sign that maybe they're going to invest in more, college football studio shows and things like that, and things that make them a more attractive partner to Notre Dame. So it's good that they are still interested in maintaining, college football broadcasts. So I think you're right. I think Notre Dame's probably answering lots of phone calls right now, waiting to see what comes to them, probably waited to see how this Big Ten agreement would shake out.
Right.
Very lucrative deal for the Big Ten. I think that there are some Big Ten fans who might be concerned, though, that, Mike, you worked at ESPN for years. ESPN tends to pay more attention to the sports that they own the rights for. And so now there maybe is a worry that Big Ten schools won't get as much ESPN coverage, and how much does ESPN coverage impact the college football playoff rankings or the AP polls or whatever, how much broader media coverage you're getting. So I could see that maybe being a negative, but I don't know how much of a negative it will be. I don't know if that's really something quantifiable or tangible, especially because ESPN is still going to have all the SEC games. They still have College Game Day. So they're going to be talking about college football.
Right.
It's not quite the same as NBC having hockey and ESPN not really covering hockey for a few years because they have no incentive to. I think ESPN still has an incentive to cover the other college football leagues, especially if there's, out of conference games or whatever. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how that shakes out for Big Ten fans, if they're going to be as upset as Notre Dame fans have been in the past if Notre Dame plays a big home game and doesn't end up on SportsCenter. We've all seen it happen.
It's a great point, because I was doing my show at ESPN when we stopped doing hockey. We talked about hockey. I mean, we had Barry Melrose on all the time. I love talking to Barry Melrose. And then hockey went to NBC, and we didn't talk about hockey. Now, one of the reasons, unfortunately, because I loved hockey, was when you talked about hockey on radio, the ratings weren't great. So that played into it. But from the TV side of ESPN, they basically stopped covering it. You're right. They basically stopped covering it. And now it's back, and they have all kind of studio shows, show all kind of games. So they put a lot behind it. I agree with you. I think even if ESPN isn't part of this deal, you're still going to get plenty of college talk because of College Game Day. It's still the leader out there. And in some of the games, they're going to do whatever their involvement is with the college playoffs. We have to kind of wait and see, because still the most popular sport out there is the NFL, and next might be college football. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't the same with hockey. Even when ESPN had hockey, while it was considered one of the big four, it was one of the low rated of it. College football is not. College football has monster ratings. So I got to believe they still will cover that. But the landscape's changing, and the team, what do the teams care about? It's just like the NFL owners all sitting in their owners meetings like that are going on right now and asking, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. How does it affect our bottom line? That's where college is now, from the players to the schools. And by the schools, I mean especially through their broadcasting deals. The players are sitting there, getting rich and actually allowed to make money through NIL, and the schools now are at a time where the broadcasting fees are going to go up. Mm-hmm. So the college presidents through the ADs are like, okay, what's going in our pocket, to help our school? That's what they're looking at. And fans, you deal with what you got to deal with, but we're getting X amount of money, and that's what we wait with Notre Dame. Because again, if there's expansion, getting into the playoffs is not going to be the issue. Now, if they only take conference champions as the top seeds, then Notre Dame would never be a top seed because they would never be a conference champ. But they'd be willing to live with that as long as the bottom line number is right. And that's essentially what we're just going to keep going around in circles with, right? Mm-hmm. What's the bottom line number going to be?
Mm-hmm. And I don't think the reports are out yet on if there's going to be a streaming partner for the Big Ten or what that might look like. But there has been some speculation about what the Saturday schedule might look like now. And if they're doing a primetime Big Ten game on NBC, does that mean Notre Dame is not going to be getting primetime games on NBC? And Mike, I don't know about you, but I hope that's the case. I love the 3:30 kickoff. I love the 2:30 kickoff. Do not love the 7:30 kickoff.
As a player, the earlier I played, the better. In the NFL, I loved 1 o'clock games. At Notre Dame, I loved 2:30 games. Man, you were done. I mean, it was awesome. prime time is cool every now and then, but for the most part, man, just let me get my uniform on and play. And God, I tell you now, from your side of it, I would have thought you would have liked the later games because you could tailgate longer.
I just think I think 3:30 is the perfect amount of time to go. I know Notre Dame's been doing more 2:30 games lately. Right. NBC's been giving them the 2:30 slot, but the 3:30 was always my favorite because you get to the tailgate. It's the perfect amount of time to eat, drink, go to the game, get a hot dog or something, and then the game ends, and you still got your whole night.
Then you can nap for a while, right?
You can nap, you can go out, you can just go home, you can have dinner. It's just the perfect amount of time. Especially my family, when I was growing up, we used to drive from Chicago to Notre Dame every Saturday for games. Both my parents went to Notre Dame. They were big ND football fanatics. So first of all, Mike, you lose an hour because of the time zone change. Right. It's brutal. So you leave at 8 a.m. You don't get there till 11. But it was the perfect amount of time when you got there to just kind of hang out for a while, see the game, and then you can still drive home. And you get home at a pretty reasonable time. And I don't know, maybe I sound like an old lady, but I really enjoyed that. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of the primetime games. I also feel like they stress me out more.
The primetime games? Why? Because there's more on it?
I don't know. I just think they're the atmosphere. I will say, I think Notre Dame Stadium probably is more of a, I don't know, a harder place to play during the primetime games. And now they're doing all this stuff with the light show and everything like that. But, and I think the crowd's just a little bit louder, but I don't know, Mike. They just,
the one thing about the 7:30 game as well is you had to, normally there's that lull. I'm just thinking of college students now, or even players, there's that lull from as long as there's no game, if your game's over, from 7 to 9 or 10 where you can chill before you start to, prep to go out. You have a primetime game, you're out. That's it, right? I mean, you're getting ready for that game, you're getting lubed for that game, and then right after the game, you're going right out. I mean, that night has to continue, and you're dead by the end of the night.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
No comment, but
I was going to say, you've been out of college a while, Jess. You can go ahead and admit.
I know, Mike, I was on the phone with a Notre Dame student earlier, and she asked me if I was a student when the DeBartolo Performing Arts Center was built, and it made me feel so old because that building was built in 2008. Which wasn't that long ago. It was a totally fair question. She meant no harm, but I was like, damn. Right. I've been out of college long enough for current students to ask me if I was around when certain buildings existed. I feel like that's a special degree of elderliness that you don't get when you're a recent college grad.
Can I just play the small violin for you now? Okay? Seriously? Oh,
no, I think you just had your 40-year reunion.
Yes, feels old. Yeah, fuck off. Yeah, I did. Yes. Is there a problem with that? Oh, my God.
No, absolutely not, Mike. I'm just saying, I feel your pain.
Oh, whatever. All right, so maybe one last thing let's talk about that we're going to feel the pain together is the end of Better Call Saul is coming up, is fast approaching. What do we have? Two? Oh, wait, after taping it, we have one left.
One
right?
One left.
So, I mean, we're in season 6. We're getting to the end. Kim, I guess we got to be careful what we say. We used to talk about this all the time on Mike and Mike, and then with me, Trey, and my son because Game of Thrones was big in that time. So what can you talk about while the series is still going on? Did I ever tell you the story of Herm Edwards and what he ruined one time?
No, I don't think so.
So we're coming to the end of the show. It's me, Mike, and Herm are doing the show. Herm was a guest for the last segment. It was just me and my son Mike doing the show. And we're coming, and I mean, literally, Jess, we're in the last 30 seconds of the show. And this is a hard out at the top. I mean, we're going off air. And Herm is and Mike, that entire show, the night before had been a Game of Thrones episode. And Mike, the entire show is, nobody say a word. Don't anybody say anything. I have it taped. I don't want to know what's going on. So the whole show, now Herm didn't know this. Herm comes in, he's a guest for the last segment. And Herm. Herm is just such a fun-loving guy. So we're literally 30 to 40 seconds of going off air. And Herm's like, how about Game of Thrones? How about what happened in Game of Thrones? And Mike's like, Herm, no. Don't say anything. I haven't seen it. And Herm's like, all right, this won't give anything away. I'm just going to have a little, this won't give anything away. He said, bad guy's got a dragon. Mike's like, no.
I mean, that's a massive spoiler.
I mean, a massive. Herm got just destroyed up and down on social media.
How did he not think that was a spoiler?
Yes, I don't know. But I mean, that was literally the last words said on that show was,
oh, Jesus.
Bad guy's got a dragon. And Mike lost his flipping mind. Everybody did who hadn't seen it because, yeah, that was a huge storyline. So I always wonder, because we got one episode left, I actually watched the last one. And as I told you, I rarely watch it live, but I was watching it live, and then unfortunately I fell asleep. It was late. I'm old. So I'm basically caught up, but I don't know how far to go outside of Breaking Bad entered the equation.
Well, okay, we won't give any spoilers in this episode.
Yeah,
we'll wait until the series ends, and then maybe
Yeah.
you and I will do a recap in a couple weeks, and we'll mark it as a spoiler and make sure we don't ruin it for anyone. But yeah, last night's episode was great. I think, Mike, this episode's over of Golic and Smetty. Thanks everyone for listening, but I can't believe Kim Wexler got abducted by a UFO.
Oh, come on, Jess!